The suspense of waiting. There is a peculiar kind of silence that comes when we are forced to wait. It is not calm, it is not peaceful, it is tense, suffocating, almost unbearable. Think of the sound of a ticking clock in an empty room, each second dragging itself into existence, each tick a reminder of time's slow cruelty. In these moments, time does not feel neutral. It feels heavy, oppressive, hostile. Why is waiting so difficult? Why does stillness feel like suffering? We live in a world addicted to speed. Every hunger satisfied instantly. Every question answered in seconds. Every desire granted at the tap of a screen. We are trained to believe that to wait is to lose, that slowness is weakness, that patience is nothing more than passivity dressed as virtue. But that is a lie. What if patience is not weakness at all? What if patience is power, quiet, invisible, and underestimated? What if the act of waiting is not submission but preparation? History, nature, even human psychology all whisper the same unsettling truth, that patience, though mocked, is a weapon sharper than any sword. Consider the predator. It does not rush its prey. It waits, silent, motionless, hours, days, sometimes weeks, until the moment comes, and then it strikes with precision. Consider the prisoner, trapped behind walls, counting days, waiting for release. The state believes he is powerless, but each day is fuel, building within him the strength of endurance. Consider the revolution, which does not erupt in a single afternoon, but simmers for decades beneath the surface, until the heat is too much to contain. Patience is not the absence of action, it is the discipline of hidden action. It is strategy concealed in stillness. And perhaps that is why patience frightens us so much, because when someone waits, truly waits, we cannot see what they are planning. We cannot measure what is being built in the shadows. We cannot control the moment when waiting transforms into force. Impatience rules the surface of our world. It fuels markets, drives politics, controls media, and defines modern life. But beneath the noise of speed and immediacy, patience waits, mocked, ridiculed, dismissed as weakness, yet all the while gathering strength. And when it returns, it does not announce itself. It does not roar or demand recognition. It strikes in silence, when impatience has burned itself out. This is the unsettling idea we must confront, that in the very act we despise most, waiting, there lies a revenge so profound that it shapes destinies, topples empires, and outlasts even time itself. In a world obsessed with speed, we forget this quiet force. But patience has not forgotten us. It has been waiting. The forgotten power of waiting, philosophical foundation. For most of human history, patience was not seen as weakness. It was seen as wisdom. It was the mark of those who understood life not as a series of impulses, but as a vast unfolding, where the slowest forces were often the most powerful. The Stoics, for instance, treated patience as a form of inner freedom. Seneca once wrote that true strength was not in controlling others, but in controlling the storm within oneself. To be patient was to refuse to be enslaved by impulse, by anger, by desperation. It was the ability to endure insult, to outlast hardship, to choose one's moment with clarity rather than panic. In the East, patience was seen as something closer to enlightenment. Laozi, the ancient Taoist sage, described the way of water, soft, yielding, slow, yet capable of wearing down the hardest rock. Buddhism taught that patience was not passive, but transformative, the ability to exist fully in the present without being devoured by craving or fear of the future. In Sanskrit, the word kshanti, patience, was not about waiting idly, but about forbearance, tolerance, and the profound courage to endure. Even Nietzsche, who was not known for praising restraint, hinted at the hidden strength of patience. He spoke of long obedience in the same direction, the idea that greatness comes not from sudden explosions of willpower, but from the slow burn of sustained effort. Kierkegaard, too, wrote that patience is necessary, and one cannot reap immediately where one has sown. Across cultures and centuries, patience was revered as a companion of wisdom. It was the tool of philosophers, mystics, strategists, and visionaries alike. And yet in our modern age, this ancient reverence has been forgotten. Patience no longer holds its sacred place. Instead, it has been reframed as failure, as inefficiency, as wasted time. We measure value by speed, by instant responses, rapid growth, immediate gratification. Waiting is no longer noble, it is inconvenient. Endurance is no longer a virtue, it is a defect in a world that demands acceleration. Consider how capitalism rewards the fast mover, the one who disrupts, the one who never pauses. Technology too has trained us. Buffering, loading, delays, these are irritants, almost unbearable. We rage when a page takes 3 seconds to load. We abandon films that do not grip us in the first minute. We expect delivery, connection, stimulation now, always now, and so what was once an honored strength has been exiled to the margins of our imagination. Patience has been branded as weakness, as submission, as passivity. We no longer see it as the slow architect of transformation, but as the dead weight holding us back. But this is a dangerous illusion, because history shows us that forces which appear slow, quiet, or even powerless, often shapes the world more profoundly than those that burn brightly and quickly. What we forget is that speed consumes itself. It burns out, but patience endures. The forgotten power of patience lies in its invisibility. While impatience demands recognition, patience hides in silence. While speed craves applause, patience asks for nothing. But it accumulates strength in secret, and when it moves with inevitability. This is why we must re-examine what patience really is. It is not passivity, it is not surrender, it is the art of timing, the discipline of restraint, the quiet refusal to be ruled by the chaos of urgency. And if we have forgotten this ancient truth, then we are blind to one of the most dangerous forces still at work in our world. The psychology of impatience, why waiting hurts us. The answer is not only cultural, it is biological. Human beings are wired to prefer immediacy. The mind evolved in environments where waiting could mean death. When hunger struck, finding food quickly was survival. When danger appeared, hesitation meant extinction. Impatience was once adaptive, to act fast, to seize quickly, to grasp opportunity without delay. These were instincts written into us by evolution. Modern psychology has a name for this tendency: temporal discounting. It is the bias that makes us value smaller, immediate rewards more than larger, delayed ones. Give a child a marshmallow now, or 2 if they wait. Most will eat the first one. This famous experiment, repeated countless times, reveals not just childhood impatience, but a universal struggle, the pain of postponing gratification. But why does waiting feel like pain? Neuroscience offers a clue. Dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, spikes not only when we receive a reward, but also in anticipation of it. The moment a reward is delayed, the dopamine drops. The brain feels cheated. Frustration grows. Waiting is experienced not as neutral time, but as deprivation. It is the sensation of craving unfulfilled. That is why lines, delays, buffering wheels on screens all provoke anger disproportionate to the event. Our minds are addicted to immediacy, to feedback, to the hit of dopamine. Waiting starves the system, yet this impatience carries a hidden cost. For while it once protected us in primitive times, today it is weaponized against us. Modern systems know the psychology of impatience better than we do. Corporations, governments, media, they all understand that to control a human being, you must control their tolerance for waiting. Make them wait too long, and they will give up. Give them just enough immediacy, and they will keep consuming endlessly. Consider the design of social media, the endless scroll, the instant notification, the quick like. These are engineered to prevent waiting. The brain is kept on a leash of constant stimulation, trained to demand the next hit before it even finishes processing the last. The result is a public conditioned not only to expect immediacy, but to suffer when it is denied. Impatience then becomes a form of control. The person who cannot wait is the person who can be easily manipulated. They will accept the shallow answer rather than endure the silence of searching for truth. They will click the first headline, fall for the fastest explanation, settle for the quickest distraction. Their inability to wait makes them exploitable. But waiting does more than frustrate individuals. It destabilizes societies. Think of bureaucracies where people wait endlessly for justice that never arrives. Think of economies where workers wait for wages that barely sustain them. Think of citizens waiting for promises of change that never come. Waiting, when imposed, becomes a weapon of power. To make someone wait without relief is to remind them of their powerlessness. And yet, paradoxically, the opposite is also true. To endure waiting with patience, to refuse the manipulation of urgency, is to regain control. Because in the silence of waiting, a strange thing happens. One begins to see more clearly. The longer one waits, the more illusions fall away. The frantic movements of others begin to look desperate, while the patient remains steady. This is why impatience is so often destructive. It burns itself out. It lashes, panics, and collapses. But patience builds resilience. It strengthens the mind against fear and manipulation. It allows one to endure what others cannot. So the psychology of impatience is not just about biology, not just about dopamine or instincts. It is about vulnerability. Impatience makes us fragile. Patience makes us dangerous. In a world where systems thrive on our inability to wait, to reclaim patience is to resist. It is to say, I will not be ruled by the immediacy of craving. I will not let time be turned into my enemy. I will wait, and in waiting I will become stronger than those who cannot. History's silent revenge, patience in revolutions and power struggles. When we look at history, it is tempting to believe that change happens suddenly, that revolutions erupt overnight, that empires collapse in a single moment, that leaders rise or fall in dramatic bursts of action. But this is an illusion born of how stories are told. History books condense decades into pages. Documentaries compress centuries into minutes. We forget that behind every sudden eruption lies years, often generations of waiting, quiet resentment, silent endurance, the long, invisible patience of people who refuse to give up. The French Revolution did not explode out of nowhere in 1789. It was centuries of inequality, decades of famine, and years of suppressed outrage simmering beneath the surface. When the storm came, it felt like lightning, but in truth, the clouds had been gathering all along. The same is true for other great shifts. The fall of Rome was not a sudden collapse, but a slow erosion, decay spreading through politics, economics, and culture over centuries. Empires rarely die in battle. They die from patience, from the slow gnawing of time itself. And sometimes patience is not just endurance, it is strategy. Mahatma Gandhi understood this. His philosophy of non-violent resistance was not built on instant victories. It was built on the power of waiting, of refusing to retaliate, of outlasting the oppressor. The British Empire, with all its armies and wealth, could crush rebellion in a day, but it could not crush patience that lasted for decades. Nelson Mandela understood this as well. 27 years in prison did not break him. Instead, it turned him into a living embodiment of patience itself. By the time he walked free, it was not only his political opponents who had changed, but the world around him. The patience of his endurance had become the most powerful weapon imaginable. Even Machiavelli, so often misquoted as an advocate of manipulation and ruthlessness, wrote that rulers must learn restraint. To rush is to risk, to wait is to win. Patience in the hands of the powerful is as much a tool as armies or gold, and when patience belongs to the powerless, it becomes even more dangerous. Consider the Cold War. For nearly half a century, two superpowers stood locked in a silent contest of patience. Nuclear weapons meant that action could destroy the world in minutes, so both sides waited. They watched, they prepared, they tested the other's endurance. In the end, it was not the explosion of missiles, but the collapse of patience that decided the outcome. The Soviet Union could no longer endure the slow economic and social decay. The United States, for all its flaws, simply waited longer. Even nature itself reminds us that patience is the ultimate force. Mountains erode grain by grain. Rivers carve valleys not in months, but in millennia. Evolution reshapes life not in years, but in ages. The greatest transformations in existence do not happen in bursts of speed. They happen in silence, invisibly through time. So when we look at history's great moments, we must see them for what they truly are: the revenge of patience. Empires that thought themselves invincible were undone not by sudden blows, but by the patient accumulation of pressure, of discontent, of decay. Leaders who believed their power eternal were outlasted by movements too patient to die. Impatience wins battles, but patience wins wars. And perhaps the most terrifying truth of all is this: patience is invisible until it is too late. The tyrant does not see it building. The empire does not hear it gathering. The system does not notice its slow advance. And then suddenly the eruption comes, not because it was sudden, but because it was patient. History is not just written by the victors. It is written by those who waited long enough to outlast their enemies. The digital war on patience, modern impatience as control. If patience was once revered as strength and impatience once recognized as weakness, then the modern world has inverted this balance completely. Today, impatience is not only normalized, it is engineered, monetized, and weaponized against us. We live in a culture where speed is no longer just convenient, it is demanded. Waiting in almost any form has become intolerable. A web page that takes more than 3 seconds to load is abandoned. A delivery that arrives in 2 days instead of 1 feels like an outrage. Even conversations are cut down into fragments, tweets, sound bites, clips designed to be consumed in seconds before the mind grows restless. This is not accidental, it is by design. Technology companies understand the psychology of impatience better than anyone. Every app, every platform, every digital experience is crafted to shorten the gap between desire and reward. Infinite scroll ensures you never pause. Autoplay eliminates the need for patience between episodes. Notifications pull your attention before you even know what you were waiting for. The result is a nervous system constantly overstimulated, constantly expecting the next hit. Patience is not just eroded, it is actively made impossible. But the consequences go far beyond personal distraction. Impatience has become a political and social weapon, because a society unable to wait is a society easy to manipulate. Consider the news cycle. Outrage today is engineered for immediacy. Headlines are designed not for accuracy but for speed. A shocking story spreads instantly, long before facts are verified. By the time corrections arrive, days or weeks later, the impatient public has moved on. Truth loses to speed. Impatience becomes propaganda. Consider politics. Modern politicians thrive not on long-term vision, but on short-term spectacles. They know their citizens are impatient. They know that promises of deep reform will not survive the waiting period. So they deliver shallow gestures, quick fixes, empty slogans that satisfy the need for immediacy. Real solutions, those requiring decades of persistence, are abandoned because voters will not wait for results. Even the economy itself rewards impatience. Corporations push consumers into cycles of endless upgrades, flash sales, and instant purchases. The marketplace thrives on urgency. Buy now before it's gone. Patience, which would allow reflection and resistance, is systematically erased. To be patient is to spend less, consume less, and question more. And so patience becomes a threat to the system. And yet, beneath this surface, something darker grows, because the war on patience does not only change how we consume, it changes who we are. When people cannot tolerate waiting, they lose the ability to endure silence. They lose the ability to think deeply, to contemplate, to reflect. Without patience, there is no depth. Without patience, there is only reaction, and a society built on reaction is a society that can be controlled. Think of how easily outrage can be manufactured online. A single story, a single clip, a single rumor, amplified instantly, reacted to instantly. Crowds form, trends rise, mobs demand, and yet, just as quickly, they dissolve, because impatience cannot sustain itself. It burns bright, then burns out. Patience, however, does not burn out. It endures. This is why, in the digital age, patience has become the ultimate rebellion. To wait, to refuse immediacy, to step away from the engineered dopamine traps. This is no longer passive. It is an act of resistance. It is a refusal to be controlled by the machinery of manipulation. The digital war on patience is a war for the human mind. It seeks to erase the capacity to wait, to make us so allergic to stillness that we surrender our freedom for speed. But every war creates its resistance. And in this case, resistance is not loud, not fast, not spectacular. It is quiet. It is simple. It is the choice to wait, because in waiting we begin to see what the impatient cannot. We begin to notice what others overlook. We reclaim time rather than being enslaved by it. And in a culture addicted to speed, that simple act becomes revolutionary. The revenge in progress, where patience strikes back. Impatience dominates the present, but it never lasts. It burns too quickly. It consumes itself. And when the smoke clears, something unexpected emerges. The quiet triumph of patience. We are already seeing its revenge. Think of the corporations that rise on hype. Glorified overnight successes promising infinite growth. They surge in a blaze of attention, capturing markets with speed, scale, and spectacle. But years later, many collapse under their own weight. Their impatience to dominate leaves them brittle. Meanwhile, Slower, steadier companies, ignored in the shadows, quietly endure. When the noise fades, the patient remain. Consider politics. Impatience fills the streets with outraged slogans, viral campaigns that erupt overnight. But when the moment passes, the energy dissolves. What remains? Often it is the small, quiet groups, the activists, the thinkers, the organizers, who worked patiently for decades, slowly building structures of change. The impatient may claim the spotlight, but the patient shape the future. We can see this in science too. Fads come and go, miracle diets, trendy theories, exaggerated breakthroughs. They make headlines, then vanish. But the patient work of real research, the years of testing, repeating, refining, always outlasts the noise. Vaccines that save millions, technologies that transform the world, knowledge that reshapes human understanding. These are never the products of impatience. They are the children of patience. Even in the personal realm, patience is quietly taking revenge. While the world spins faster, many people are stepping back. Movements like slow living and digital detox may look small, but they are powerful acts of rebellion. To reject the urgency of constant connection, to reclaim one's time, to choose depth over speed. These are patient choices that dismantle the machinery of control. And then there is nature itself, which offers the most chilling reminder of all. For centuries, humanity has consumed, polluted, and exploited with impatience, acting as though consequences could be endlessly delayed. But the environment does not move at the pace of human greed. It moves slowly, invisibly, until suddenly its revenge is undeniable. Rising seas, collapsing ecosystems, climate shifts that can no longer be ignored. The planet itself is the embodiment of patience taking its revenge. Patience does not fight loudly. It does not need to. Its strategy is endurance. Its weapon is inevitability. And in a world where everything moves at breakneck speed, the force that waits longest is the one that wins. This is what makes patience terrifying. It cannot be outpaced because it does not compete in the same race. It cannot be distracted because it does not demand attention. And it cannot be defeated because it is willing to wait until all its opponents destroy themselves in the frenzy of urgency. The revenge of patience is already here, quietly reshaping the world. You can see it in the collapse of systems that move too fast, in the exhaustion of people who lived too impatiently, in the resilience of those who chose stillness over speed. Patience has been mocked, ridiculed, dismissed as weakness. But while the impatient were busy burning themselves out, patience was waiting. And now, one step at a time, it is reclaiming what was lost. Conclusion: the quiet weapon. From the very beginning, patience has been misjudged. It has been mocked as weakness, dismissed as passivity, and forgotten in an age addicted to speed. Yet history, psychology, and human experience all reveal a darker, deeper truth. Patience is not the absence of power. It is power, hidden, enduring, and inevitable. Impatience controls the present. It makes noise. It demands attention. It dominates headlines. But it is short-lived. The impatient rise quickly, but they fall just as fast. They burn out in the frenzy of their own urgency. Patience, however, moves in silence. It does not announce itself. It does not need recognition. It simply endures. And in that endurance lies its quiet revenge. Think of every empire that believed itself eternal. Think of every tyrant who ruled as though they could escape time. Think of every ideology, every fad, every empire of commerce that once seemed unstoppable. All of them, without exception, were outlasted, not by louder enemies, not by faster rivals, but by time itself, the ultimate embodiment of patience. That is why patience is terrifying. It cannot be defeated, because it does not fight on the same terms. It cannot be bribed because it does not hunger for immediacy. It cannot be rushed because its very nature is to wait until the moment comes. And in the silence of waiting, patience gathers strength. It builds resilience, it sharpens clarity, it allows the patient to see what the frantic overlook, to prepare for what the reckless ignore. When the strike finally comes, it is precise, unstoppable, and irreversible. So what does this mean for us? Living in a world where speed rules every moment, it means that the greatest rebellion may not be shouting louder or moving faster. It may be the opposite. It may be the quiet, radical act of slowing down, of refusing to be ruled by urgency, of reclaiming the power to wait. Because to wait is not to do nothing. To wait is to choose strength over panic, depth over distraction, clarity over chaos. To wait is to align yourself with time itself, the most undefeated force in existence. The impatient may dominate the moment, but patience dominates eternity. And so, the final truth is this: patience is not a passive virtue, it is a quiet weapon, one that outlasts empires, breaks tyrants, and shapes the destiny of those who dare to wield it. It has always been here, watching, waiting, and perhaps its revenge has already begun.